Hi guys, welcome to
Blended Roots.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. So today we have decided that we're going to do some myth busting. We've been at this for a really long time now. So you can imagine the things that we have heard time and time again about not only our family, but about co-parenting in general. So we have a basket of 10 myths that we have heard, some of the top 10 myths that we've heard. And we are going to bust these myths for you one at a time. So here we go. You want to do the first one? Great.
Well, if I could open it that way. The judge knows better than the parents. So, I guess it doesn't really apply much to Kim. She didn't have a judge really telling her what to do with Bryson. But I've heard a lot from people now because custody in Kentucky is 50-50, like automatically now. That doesn't mean that that's necessarily like the route that's perfect for you. So, you do have to go to a mediator. You do have to discuss that with them. But the judge does not always know what's best for your children. So you still, even though you all aren't together, you still have to be able to advocate for your children and what's best for them. So a judge does not always know more than the parents.
And we touched on that a little bit last week because we were talking about how it was better for Kaylin and Rannon at their age to have the
Rannon was a baby.
Yeah,
he was an infant.
It was better for them to have that consistency with you and only see Randy on his scheduled times.
Right, because he was off on those times.
Right.
And if it was days that he had to work, at one point he was getting off work at 1:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to pick my kid up at 1:30 in the morning and then like get their sleep routine and things like that off. But we've always been a stickler for routines, even as infants, with all of our kids.
And our animals.
And our animals. Even now, we are sticklers for a routine. So
yeah.
Yep.
So no, judge does not always know best. You got to do what's best for you and your kids. So we have heard on multiple occasions that we are polyamorous. We also kind of touched on this last week.
Yes.
We are not polyamorous.
It's okay if you are.
Oh yeah, no, nothing against anyone that is. We just are not. But we kind of also said last week that we do kind of have a polyamorous relationship minus the romantic part.
Yes.
We each have our own romantic partners, but overall we do manage the household as one, manage the family as one. We do everything together, but we are not specifically polyamorous. We don't have that relationship.
No. Nor do we have any plans on ever being. So if that's going to be like a follow-up to anybody, no. Not our thing.
And there was another question that a friend asked us. She's like, I know that you all don't share, but what about you all?
She's like, what about the girls? Do the girls share? No, we do not.
No, we are not a thing. And we do not share husbands. The husbands do not share.
I did.
We don't share.
I did, but I just didn't know I was sharing with
Didn't know at the time. It's fine. We no longer share any partners.
No.
So that myth busted.
Yeah. Oh, are we swingers? No. We're not. We are not swingers.
Also not that.
Yeah.
Again, no judgment, because believe me, we are the last people to judge anyone.
But that's normally like people, even in our neighborhood, whenever like they come up and I was like, no, because you can see like the questions like in their brain, and we're like, we're not swingers. Like, no, our kids aren't raised like, with a million people in and out of our house. Like, that's normal. There's a million people in and out of our house, but we aren't swinging with them. They just happen to live here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, we chose this family style because it's best for our kids.
Yeah.
And honestly, let's be honest, in this economy, this is what we also thought was best for our family, because there are some things that God has brought to light that had we not done this, me and Randy for sure would have been screwed. But economy was definitely a part of that decision making. So, we're just going back to like the old days when like the whole family lived together.
Yeah.
People don't realize that that's how things used to be.
And we would love to have a family like compound someday, like everybody live on the same piece of land. At the end of the day, that would probably still be a goal for us, just because our kids would probably still love it, especially if
we would love it.
I know we would.
We would love it.
We do have friends, however, that do want to live on the compound, but we have adopted them. And we're okay with that. I just don't want to have to share space with them, but we would probably honestly still share a home.
Because it's easier for the kids.
It's just, it's honestly, and it's super easy for us. Kim doesn't cook. I cook. Like, she cleans. I hate to clean.
I mean, I slack off sometimes, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
She was even my cleaning lady before we moved in together. It's just not my thing.
Fine. It's fine. We have our roles, and we know those roles, and we accept those. So this one was one of my favorites, and you even kind of made a joke about it last week, that we're just a big cult.
Yes. And I never heard it until, it was until we got the boys. And
because it was their grandmother.
No, it was Sarah.
Oh, was it
Sarah?
Hi. Hope you're enjoying your trip.
Yeah, have fun at the beach. But she had made the comment to Jeremy, "What are you all, some kind of cult?" And if it wasn't Sarah, then it was Aunt Jen, and I don't really care about Aunt Jen. But no, we are not a cult. We as me, Randy, Kim, and our children all share a faith. Jeremy does not. Our daughter Kaylin, Christian, but
still has her own opinions.
Yeah, she's still, and even our son, which in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to kind of discuss that a little bit better. Our teenage son, he's making different choices for himself than we are making for our family. And that's okay. He's 16. He's going to be 17. So we're definitely not a cult. But every so often, us as like a whole, like 20 some people, I guess, will always make the joke, "Oh, our robes are on the way." Like, but no, we're definitely not a cult.
We're getting them lined in red this time, right?
Yes. Black with red. Ninth Gate. It's like kind of that vibe. Because I really like that movie, but whatever. But yeah, we're not a cult. Not at all. Unless cults can have different... Oh, we've already done this one. Kim and Amber are not a thing.
Oh, yeah. Because we hear that a lot.
Kim and Amber are not. Nope. She's not my type.
I've known that since the beginning. But people just don't seem to, believe that. This one's kind of, it's about our family, but also about co-parenting, that we always have to agree on everything. And that's not the case.
No.
But we're adults, and we can talk it out.
And we kind of do a majority.
That's true.
And normally it is 3 against 1, unless my husband can get his brother husband on board. And if it's a bigger decision, then we'll even ask like the older kids, that kind of thing. But no, it is not. No, it's not. No.
We even had a big decision that you were saying we'll probably talk about here in the next couple of weeks, that we didn't necessarily agree on.
No, but we've compromised.
We have, because at the time, with this situation, I was done. I was ready.
And it's still very raw, and we're still going through it, so we're not going to discuss it right now.
But it was just one of those things where we did have differing opinions. But again,
and I did ask her to
talk about it.
Take a step out of your comfort zone for just a minute, because I need for you to help me get through this. And we worked it out. I mean, it's not like none of us were mad at each other. She might have been mad at me at the very moment whenever I took her phone and deleted some stuff. But
it's fine. I mean, in the end, it was for the better. But
she had an Amber moment. She made rash decisions.
But no, we do not always have to agree. Nope. Period. You do need to compromise, but eventually come to a compromise that works for everybody. But you don't always have to agree.
Yeah, no. Normally the moms agree though, except on this.
It's fine. We came to an agreement.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So I've heard this a lot. Parents are different after that. No, parents are not different after you get a divorce or a court order. That doesn't change who they are. Not saying that Randy was ever a bad dad. He made bad choices, but not for his children. Like he, now bigger picture, he probably would have done it differently. But he was never a bad person. But even now, it doesn't change the fact that Randy has forgotten to pick our kids up from school. They're homeschooled now, but he did. He left them at school once. So I always have to send him text messages. I would have to do that when we were married too. It didn't change. He's not he didn't become this parent that remembers everything.
I can't tell you how many times, especially when Raina was in football, we would be like, you got to text us. You got to tell us what's going on.
Yeah. We did have a discussion with a football mom because she kept telling him. And I said, stop telling him things because I will not know. She will not know because he does not tell us. So you can't just come out of a divorce and be like, well, the judge said, or he should just know. I'm sorry. You got to give somebody some grace. They're not a different person. After you signed on a dotted line, they're not a different person. So you still have to, remind them, hey, it's, 2:25. Are you in pickup line?
Right.
And if they're not, you're calling the school or you're texting the teacher and being like, hey, he's going to be 5-10 minutes late because he forgot again. But honestly, you can't, even about bigger situations, you just can't think that person's going to change because a judge told them to, or the order said that they should just remember.
They have to be willing to do it.
Yeah. But sometimes people are just people, and he's just forgetful.
I mean, let's be honest, pretty sure that he's undiagnosed, but pretty sure he's severely ADHD.
Oh yeah.
Because you could tell him something, he'd take 2 steps and he completely forget.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he's passed that on to his children. But, whatever. So, that didn't change after the divorce. He's still very much ADHD.
Yeah.
She just gets to deal with it again.
But you never that's the thing. It's not going to end just because, you get a divorce. That situation's not changing. You married them. You know how they are. Don't make them look bad for something that you already know that they suck at. You still got to help them out.
So, I like this one because, and you kind of touched, no, I don't think we touched on this last week, but it was weird because we had a conversation with the kids afterwards that they had no idea was related to this. So we've heard people say that the custody arrangements are permanent.
Oh, yeah.
And that is absolutely not the case.
Nope. They can change. If you're not happy with them, you can get an attorney and change them. Is it easy? No. Does that mean that you all can't finally decide to get yourself together and decide to change that arrangement? You can.
I mean, if I remember right, they even had encouraged you guys in the beginning, start with this custody agreement.
Yes.
And then work on just something that works for you.
Right, and for the longest time, we did not change it.
Pretty sure it's still on file.
Yes, it is. We've not changed anything from the divorce or the custody agreement, none of that. Technically, Randy still can't make any medical decisions for our biological children.
because Rhiannon is still not an adult, so
Yeah.
technically it's still on
So-
file and still in play.
Yes. And if you do go get a real ID, by the way, you better take that with you, because you do have to have your divorce decree and your custody arrangement. Don't ask me why, but they asked me for it. And I didn't have it, so now I have to go back. But, you know, it is something that can change. But it has to change on both sides. You all have to be able to get along. You can't just every other day be like, hey, can you get the kid? Like, you know, well, then they should be able to turn around and do that too. So it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
Some people, I don't think that they're ever going to get along. Like, for some reason, they just can't, like, get it through their head that, like, you have to both agree to the changes and then, you know, just be nice to each other. Like, it takes a while, but if you can be nice to each other,
Yeah.
you know,
It makes it a lot easier to figure it
and
out.
it's so much easier for the kids because you're not like, oh, it's Wednesday, not Thursday, so your dad can't come get you, because his agreement was on Tuesday and Thursday evening from 3 to 6.
And every other weekend?
And every other weekend.
Yeah.
And he couldn't always do that. And that was even while we were just separated, before we were divorced. It was the same agreement. And a lot of times, you know, he couldn't come get them. It's not because he didn't want to, but he still has to pay child support. He still has to keep medical insurance on them.
Mm.
So he has to work. It's not his fault that he had to work, and he shouldn't miss out on that time. So
And
does that mean that, like, if he was off on, because I think back then he was then off like early on Fridays or something, and
Yeah.
I would just let him go ahead and get them to make up for those like 4 hours that he had missed during the week.
Yeah.
And we had
'Cause
done that.
He had a job, well, up until, you know, 7-8 months ago.
Yeah.
He had a job where his schedule literally changed every 6 months. And it would
that
be a
is if there
pain to
wasn't
go
something in between that we had to change our
right
schedule
to
for.
rebid. So it would be, God, an absolute pain to have to go and get a custody agreement changed every 6 months because the work schedule changes.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the end, it was so much less effort for us to just get along than to be constantly arguing. And I mean, yeah, sacrifices had to be made on both sides, but in the end, it was drastically better for the kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Drastically. I think it's your turn.
Oh, okay.
We might actually get through this in like a decent time.
We might. A bad spouse means a bad parent.
It's funny that you're getting all of these that were like,
There were questions.
Yeah.
So we had an issue with a girl that Kaylin went to elementary school with. Love that family to death. Their family situation has now changed, and now they
maybe they understand our
Yeah.
situation a little more.
But they had issues with daughter being around my husband, because we were divorced, and I was like, we're divorced. That's still her dad, but I guess some pre-misconception that they had just meant that he was automatically a terrible person. And Randy is not a terrible person. He's done bad things. We've all done bad things. But their situation has now changed. So hopefully in the future, if it happens with their children or whatever, they're going to have a little bit more grace whenever it comes down to it. And don't just think that somebody is a bad person because, you know, they're not together with their spouse. Like, you know,
Yeah.
some things are biblically meant that you can get a divorce. Even, you know, that still doesn't mean that they were bad people. So,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, and like you said, we've all done bad things. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I did a lot of things that I should not have done in my younger years. And one of them that got us in this situation, but you learn from that. You get older, you mature,
Yeah.
and you learn that was wrong. Because it's not something that I would ever do again, you know?
No.
Like, you learn from that, and just because it's something I did when I was younger doesn't mean I'm going to
Yeah,
continue
and
to
I
do
made
that.
really
Like,
stupid decisions whenever I got divorced. That, like, it still didn't mean that I was a bad parent. I just made some really, really stupid choices.
It happens.
Yeah, and someday Randy can tell you about one of them because, you know, they decided to call him and tell him I was a bad mother. And Randy was literally like,
Why are you calling?
Why are you calling me? And that's not Amber at all. Like, no.
If there's anything about Amber, she's gonna put her kids first. I mean, let's just be honest. That's
because I didn't date for like a really long time, and I certainly was not going to get remarried. But here we are.
That happened.
Yeah.
I also really love this one. And specifically because I'm sure that you heard it a lot too, but I heard it so much when everything first started happening that it ends at 18. No, honey. No, it does not. Because people would
and that was one
thing
that we'd always said.
Yeah, because like people would always say like, oh, you only have to make it till they're 18. No. Yeah. So just because they turn 18, we're going to stop like having to deal with the other parent? Because that's not the case. Amber's like, no ma'am, because we're going to continue having Christmases together. That doesn't stop at 18. We're going to continue having Thanksgiving together. That doesn't stop at 18.
But even if you're not doing that, you all are still in each other's lives because you're going to have grandchildren, hopefully, if they want them. You're going to have college graduation. You're going to have engagement parties. These are things that your kids expect for you all to show up to.
No matter what happened in the past.
And I'm sorry, as parents, you should want to show up for your kids.
Exactly. Even if you can't get along like we do, put your differences aside to be there for your child.
Yeah.
Because they are number one.
Yeah. And listen, like I said, I am selfish whenever it comes to Christmas and Christmas mornings. I don't want her to get a Christmas morning with my grandbaby and me not be there.
Oh my God. That was the one thing like that we kept saying about moving into a house together. We're like, you know what? If we ever have grandchildren.
With 5 children, I'm sure we will.
I'm sure we will. Kaylin doesn't want children, but it's fine.
And that's okay. We have grand cats.
But yeah, like, how are we supposed to choose? Like, we don't want them to have to choose which grandparent they go see.
Yeah, like, oh, say that they move away and then they come back. And then they're like, well, we're going to spend this holiday at Dad's house and then next holiday we'll stay there.
No, thank you.
No, it doesn't. I don't want to share that time.
No, thank you.
If I only get them for a certain allotment of time, even my daughter who comes home every weekend from college, I don't really want to. I already have to share with Lyndon. Okay, like
that's already been hard enough.
For the few minutes that I get my child, like, or she'll just come in and just want to speak to me, like in the morning, like, you know, I have a baby that I watch, and sometimes she'll just come in and she'll just sit with me. Well, if we were doing like every other summer, like, oh, she's going to go spend time at her dad's or whatever, I don't want to give up those like few minutes a day that I might get with her. Yeah. I don't want to share.
Mm-mm.
I don't.
And guess what? She's 20.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't end at 18.
Oh no.
It does not end at 18.
No.
All right. I think the last one's yours.
Oh yay. Custody schedules can't change. Obviously, we
talked about that.
They can change. It just means that y'all have to get along. And it can't just be you expecting one parent to change, because I do know of a couple of situations where they always think that like the other should change and you shouldn't have to. Well, it has to go both ways. So just stop being idiots. Like, seriously. Like, you know, it would be easier on the kids if you all could just like get along. It's easier on our kids that we were able to get through that, and like it wasn't. And trust me, there were times that we had to exchange children with a sheriff. And we can go over that story, but that was a whole thing. And it still didn't mean that Randy was a bad person. We both had negative reactions that affected our children. Because I have a temper. He has a temper. Everybody who knows me knows that I do. So, you know, that custody situation then was very strict because of actions that we did. And that wasn't fair for our kids either. but that gave us a lot of like, we shouldn't have done that. And now we're stuck to this agreement, like hardcore, like we have to. So we've not always been perfect at it either. We've not.
But it can get better.
It will get better. You all just have to get out of your own way. Like me, I was in my own way, you know, and Kim was in her own way, and Randy was in his own way because we felt one way. And until you realize you're the problem, like you can't be open to fixing that. So yeah, your custody arrangements can change. Doesn't mean that, you know, it's going to be easy, but get out of your own way and just, you know, be there for your kids. That's what matters. If you're going to die for your kids, you can live for your kids, you can get along for your children, but that's what you have to do. Like, honestly,
it's not going to be easy. I promise you, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. To see our kids now, everything that we went through, 100% worth it. Yeah. To get to where we are.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not
I'm getting all emotional every time. I'm all like,
it's not been easy. And we're not saying that, like, you know, you're going to get there overnight, because it was not.
No. And
there's still sometimes now that I'm like, okay.
Inhale, Jesus.
Yes.
Satan.
And normally it's about other people and what they think of our situation now. Because
let's be honest, sometimes you feel that way towards Randy too, because he still knows how to get under your skin.
Yeah, him, and like he knows more of my trigger points than my current husband. And like I think that they just talk to each other about them. Like, what's going to make her go from 0 to 9 million in less than 2 seconds? Well, let me say this one thing.
Listen, but Randy will even admit that he likes to poke the bear sometimes.
He does. He does. He likes to poke the bear, and he hates it when I'm clever. So, you know, whenever
sometimes him poking the bear makes the
cleverness
come out.
And he can't stay. And then he's like, "Dag on it, why? Why
do you have to be so clever?"
Yeah. So, I mean, you're always going to get on each other's nerves. You are in a relationship together. Like,
yeah,
you all know more about each other than, you know, most people. And now I'm in a relationship with her, even though it's not a relationship. It's a relationship. So I know what irritates her. She knows what irritates me. And normally, if I see that it's going to be something that's going to irritate her, I'm like, we're gonna word it this way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that's just how it is. You got to figure each other out.
But yeah. So if you all have any other questions, you can for sure ask them. If you don't want them, like, you know, in a podcast or posted online, if we answer any, we don't have to. Just let us know. We'll definitely not call you out by first and last name.
Maybe just your initials.
Probably by first name. If you have a distinct name, Elizabeth, we won't use that. We'll use a different name. I'm just kidding. But we don't care to answer any questions that you all have. Eventually, I'm sure you all will learn everything, because we have a lot of stories to tell you how we got to where we are. So, you know, the good and the bad. We'll share it all with you. So if you have any questions, just let us know.
Otherwise, myth busted. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Come back next week and hang out with the moms
on another episode of
Landed Roots.